Chris Arnold joins us today to talk about how he's able to live a great life going to the beach every day after work in the beaches of Tulum, Mexico, while investing in Dallas, Texas. He specializes in radio ads. So we're going to jam a little bit on life living in Tulum, Mexico, and how radio ads can be a great foundation for marketing in your business. What's the weather like in Tulum today?
It's about 88 degrees. A little
All
hotter
right,
than I
man.
like, but that's all right.
What are you gonna do? Hit the beach after this interview, or what do you have going on the rest of the day?
What I got today? Now I've got a painter coming in to paint this office that I'm working on. It's like my creative room.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pumped to have you on the show, man. We originally met in person at the family reunion event in Tampa back in October. You live, breathe, and eat pretty much our philosophy of like a freedom lifestyle design type business where you're actually living in Tulum, Mexico, doing business in Dallas, enjoying yourself, getting to go to the beach, hang out. Just met Jules. She was very helpful in getting the tech set up and getting this interview set up. So a lot of people want to know. You're kind of like could be like a cover boy for like 4 hour work week or a book
Yeah.
like that in the real estate space. If they had a segment for like real estate investing or wholesaling, you would definitely be the cover boy for that. But to start this off, dude, I would love to get an idea of just what your business looks like today and what type of stuff, what kind of moves you're making.
Yeah, absolutely. So, man, I've been in the game like 15 years now. I started on the retail brokerage side, which I still have. So I have my traditional brokerage, helping people buy and sell. Over time, we launched investment and merged the two together. So my investment company kind of has this exit strategy of being able to be solution oriented, right? So if you call in, you want a cash offer, boom, we'll bring you a cash offer and close on your property. Or if you want to go the retail route, we can list that as well. And so I've got it on a completely virtual model. So no brick and mortar, I think now for maybe going on about 4 years, which is super cool. And I've been down here in Tulum now full time for 3 years. And probably the thing that I'm most proud of is I've got an incredible leadership team. I've got a chief operating officer that fundamentally runs the day to day on the investment side. So that's what's really given me that freedom. And also on top of that, launched a couple other businesses. So we won one of the top masterminds in the country, which to me is like a deep brotherhood friendship, which is my life. It's like what gets me out of bed is spending time with these guys. And then, of course, talking a little bit about radio, which we'll hit on today too, which is cool. But that's me in a nutshell, man.
Love it, man. A very cool nutshell. Tulum is in Mexico for those that don't know. So that's a very cool lifestyle and everything that you got going on. Let's kind of unpack. I want to hear kind of how you even got to this point of living in Mexico, but then I also want to hear what made you successful in doing so, talking leadership and radio ads as well, whatever else may pop up as we jam here on the Zoom call.
Yeah. So for me, it really started as a decision. And that is, I wanted to build a business that gave me particular freedoms. Man, it was always about freedom for me, but defining that freedom is, I wanted freedom of time to really be able to spend on things that I value most. I want freedom of resources to be able to write checks towards the things that I'm most passionate about. And I think one of the other freedoms is freedom of location. And so, looking at the whole Caribbean life and just kind of being down here and that being a part of it, it really did start with the decision. And the world I had to cross into to make that happen was going from the brick and mortar mentality, having employees, right? Commuting to the office day to day, like what you see traditionally done, and crossing that line and trusting virtual world, understanding that we could run a really healthy culture and we could have accountability and we could have all the things even better on a virtual based model than an office based model. And so that's kind of where it started. And it took time. It's not something we pulled the trigger on overnight. It was definitely a process of trial and error to get there.
I'm sure, man. What were your biggest influences? Because I've heard you bring up company culture and leadership already a few times in the couple minutes that we've been recording. What kind of influences did you have, like going through that growing process of more so starting out and even today?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first book, and maybe those listening have read this, that really hits you is Michael Gerber, E-Myth Revisited, you all begin to understand that like there's a difference between working in your business and working on it. And I think for a lot of us as entrepreneurs, that was such a big paradigm shift when we first read that. And so it's like, okay, let me get this right. Like, I don't have to be a part of the day-to-day. Like what Michael's telling me, like, is the greatest value I'll bring to my organization is to get out of the day-to-day and get on the visionary side. So that would be one. And then another, obviously, would be anything by like Gino Wickman, that wrote Traction, Rocket Fuel, because that book for me gave me permission to be a visionary. I think a lot of people hold back from that because it's like, you're telling me that my job every day could wake up and primarily be to think, that my job primarily is to go out and build the most important relationships. My job is primarily to make the big decisions, but the rest is all delegated. And so, and when I understood like, yeah, like that's my genius zone, that's where we should all attain to be if we're on the visionary side, that really influenced my thinking. Because I was like, man, what a cool job to wake up and primarily think every day.
Mm-hmm. I hear you, man. Those books, the Michael Gerber, Gino Wickman, mandatory just to read those, just to get those into your operating system. And then what you mentioned with like the mastermind and accountability, that's the best, like high touch. I know that we're in one together, the family reunion one, but that's the best for like high touch or accountability. And so much of US kind of like mental conditioning is kind of the mindset of like, if you want to get something done right, you got to do it yourself. Like people almost wear that as like a badge of honor, like trying to do every type of thing and work as hard as possible to do that stuff, which is applicable obviously, and to go in stretches of working long days or long weeks, whatever. But you gotta, it's huge if you can get out of that mindset of if I want to get something done right, I have to do it myself, which I feel is just kind of like normal to grow up in the U.S. But
the language for that is either you're a centralized leader or you're a decentralized leader. And a centralized leader is everything's pointing at me. The show is about me. You remove me from the equation, the business stops. And you're right, there's some ego with that because the thing about centralized leadership is it makes me feel good. It makes me feel important. But the problem is that's not a successful business. That's a really selfish decision as a leader. Decentralized leadership is this is not dependent on me anymore. In fact, I'm actually not needed to get things done. And I think that there can be a little bit of a loss for the entrepreneur in the sense of, so I'm not needed here. Maybe feel like I'm being put out to pasture a little bit. But here's the deal. Your business is defined success-wise by how long it would run if you stopped working in it today. And if you stop today and everything comes to a crashing halt, man, you don't have a business, you got a job. And so that's why I think, decentralized leadership is crucial, but a lot of people really struggle to give up the control. That's what it comes down to. I don't want to give up control, and I don't want to give up, particularly as a man, my identity. Because now it's my identity that I'm needed within this company, and that's how I feel good about myself, which is super dangerous.
That's a rabbit hole I could go down pretty far, talking about Eckhart Tolle, getting into like learning about the ego and things like that. But for the benefit of the listener, I'm going to cut my thought pattern short there and keep it real estate entrepreneurship related. But you're absolutely right on that, in my opinion, my man. Cool. Let's talk a little bit, dude. I know that you have had very successful marketing campaigns with radio ads. So I want to kind of transition the conversation there. It seems like something that's so not basic, but something that's just known about. Everybody knows about radio ads. You hear them depending on the demographic of person you are. Maybe like older people, maybe like my dad's age that are, I guess that's baby boomer, like 50, 60 range year old, listen to radio more so than people my age, like early 30s. But I would love to hear kind of your first broad stroke, why radio ads are successful, can be successful for people listening to this, and why they've been successful for you thus far.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way I define radio is, I think you nailed it. It's the marketing channel that like everyone knows about, but you don't find anyone that's really utilizing it. And so I've been doing it now for 10 years. I don't have a marketing channel that I've been able to depend on for that long. Everything has kind of come and gone, kind of been more of a roller coaster ride for us as an organization. But radio has literally just been tried and true year in and year out for us. A couple reasons why I think we've had such success with it. Number one, it's great to have a marketing channel where there's really no one sitting around the poker table. I think every marketing channel for the most part works. The problem you run into is when it gets super overcrowded and saturated. Let's use direct mail as an example. Can you imagine being on the front end of direct mail back in the day for investment properties? It'd been great, but it got oversaturated, and there's some challenges in the market there. The thing about radio is it's just still wide open. And if you're listening right now and I ask you, who do you know in your market that's utilizing radio to find discounted properties to be able to fix and flip or wholesale or add to your rental portfolio, you're not going to be able to really think of anyone because no one's using it. It's wide open, and that's a big reason for the success.
Mm-hmm. Unless they're in Dallas, they may have somebody come to mind. Yeah, I just paid into a friend of mine in Omaha. I just split some marketing with him, and we're going to do a 50-50 deal split, but I paid into some of his radio ad stuff. And I've been listening to some of your interviews, and it makes a ton of sense. And I think you have good insight, too, on the type of seller that attracts radio ad. And it's always like people use different terminology, but, a direct mail lead, for example, where you're sending out direct mail, I'm very confident in. I've seen so many people that have success with it, but just my own internal operating system, like kind of how it works out, where you're sending out X amount of mail, only 0.5% of people are going to respond. And then out of that small amount of people that call you back, there's going to be a good bit of people that are saying, to some extent, take me off your list.
Maybe over half.
So the net, that just, it's that in my own operating system doesn't make sense. So there's definitely a place for it, and you can be successful with direct mail. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying my own internal operating system, it doesn't calculate for me, the direct mail.
Agreed. I totally agree with that. And so the other quality about radio that I like is it's been the highest quality lead that we know how to generate. Because think about it. Let's compare it to direct mail. We know that over half those calls are complaint and hate calls, right? Which is tough. It's a burden on the system. With radio, if someone's driving down the road and they're responding to a call to action for, we provide a cash offer for whatever situation you're in, that's a motivated person that takes the time to pick up their cell phone and respond directly to your radio ad. So it would be like if you could take direct mail, move all the crap calls that you get, and just get the quality. And so that's what radio is like. And then the second thing, because you're talking about your kind of operating system and the way that you're processing, we're picking on direct mail a little bit. Again, I agree direct mail works, but let's compare radio to something that people use. Direct mail is high maintenance. Think about it. You've got to make sure you got the right postcard. You're going to debate over what it says, how aggressive is it, the color of it, all that type of stuff. Everyone is list dependent, so you're now fighting over who can get the best list to mail to, right? And there's a lot about list stacking and how you pull your list, and everyone claims they got the best list, right? Then you're managing the mail company, and then you're managing the influx of calls. Radio is set it and forget it. The radio station manages everything for you. All you got to do is pay your bill and answer the phone when it rings. That's it. And then on top of that, when your phone rings, primarily the calls you're getting are quality opportunities. And so by comparison, there really isn't. And that's why we spend so much more on radio than we do direct mail.
Love it, man. We're hitting a bunch of good stuff on what makes radio a quality lead source or a quality way to spend lead generation. You kind of hit on it earlier. You said you've been doing this 10 years, but I feel like marketing, just since I've been in the national space the last 4.5 years, I feel like what's working marketing wise, getting asked that all the time, it's always kind of cyclical. Like it's always kind of changing. Isn't it due to oversaturation of other wholesalers or whatever? I'd be curious to hear your market analysis just during the COVID time here. And it's also interesting that we both have been kind of COVID proof as far as our we're not brick and mortar, we're both virtual. So when you did make that move to Tulum, you almost did that to another extent of like, hey, I'm gonna have to manage a team from a different country, which is pretty cool. And I'm hitting on a couple different points there. But I'd love to hear kind of your analysis of other stuff that's working for you, and then we'll dive into more so how someone could get set up with radio.
Okay. So you want to know what we're doing outside of radio for lead
Yeah,
generation?
and kind of how it's comparing.
Yeah. So again, and you were asking, so it's kind of a twofold question. During COVID or even now toward the end of it, I have never seen radio stations so negotiable in my life. You have to realize that a lot of people that were utilizing radio, not to sell something, but simply to create brand awareness, they pulled their marketing dollars, because you don't market for brand awareness when times are hard, right? It's difficult. So all of a sudden, what I'm seeing right now is this window of radio stations being super negotiable because their inventory is low. And so to give you an idea, it's some of the lowest prices that I've ever seen negotiated with our students. And we have stations that are literally coming in and going, yep, I'll take that price. Yep, I'll take that price. And a lot of times you got to really work the negotiation to make it happen. And so, Matt, I think that that's key. In the sense of other things that are working, we have kind of a few things that we really build our business on. We definitely do online marketing as well. So everything to do with pay-per-click, social media, all that type of stuff. Again, how can you go wrong? Everything is online. We still do some targeted direct mail. But in comparison to like 2018, when we were sending like 100,000 pieces a month, and we have cut that budget way down and made it really sniper focused. And then the other thing, I mean, you're talking about oversaturation. I think the more balanced model and lead generation source to have is what we call direct to investor, or also known as co-wholesaling or JVing. So as the market gets rushed with a lot of new people, they need help displaying those properties. They don't have a cash buyers list. They don't have a back-end system. So another great source for us in deals is partnering with newer investors. And what's great about that is the more that come in, the more opportunities we get in our business. So we're kind of turning our competitors into our customers, which is a great model as well.
Definitely a good model. Do you have any insight on how you're doing that? Like how you're kind of almost doing lead gen for other wholesalers?
Yeah, I mean, we're building relationships with them. So we call it fundamentally kind of a learn and earn model. So you're a newbie, you don't have a back-end system, you're looking for guidance, you're looking for mentorship. And so what we do is we kind of guide them along the way. We're there to help them evaluate a property when they're going out to a property. We're providing resources, anything that a new investor is like, man, you know how it is when you're new, like everything is cold to you. So what we do with our relationship is just continue to provide value, and in return, that loyalty is created, and then they're bringing us the deals. And so they're making money, they're learning, and that's much better than going to have to drop, $25,000 for some guru coach. And so we definitely use the learn and earn model.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, learn and earn model to some capacity. I feel like anybody that's an experienced wholesaler or investor listening to this is something they could leverage for sure. So definitely good stuff. I want to talk a little bit about the commercial itself, what it sounds like, or the ad itself, and kind of what it sounds like. I know that's kind of like a cookie cutter simple question, but that's kind of what the radio is like, though, because like we said, like everybody knows and hears radio ads, and it seems super simple. But I like hearing just kind of your insight and philosophy on it.
Yeah. So our ads themselves, you have to realize what happens as you play an ad. So even before we step into what we're saying, there are two major benefits that radio creates that people don't realize, or I guarantee you're not getting with any of your other traditional stuff. Your ad is going to create celebrity status for you. That means that psychologically in the mind of the human, when we see someone on television or we hear someone on the radio, this is where the concept of celebrities come from. And so people don't realize, like, oh my goodness, I can create celebrity status for me and for my company via my radio ad. And then what falls behind that is instant credibility. Because here's the assumption that the seller makes. If you're advertising on radio, you must know what you're talking about, because people who advertise on the radio know what they're talking about. So that's huge with the ad in the sense of benefit, because you don't get that off the bandit sign. You don't get that off the direct mail. A lot of times you're actually hiding your company because you're probably spamming somebody, right? You wouldn't put your company name on text blasting or RVMing. So within the ad itself, in the sense of what we're saying, is we're just hitting on pain points, right? You know, do you own a house that's falling apart in need of repair? Are you a landlord that's tired of dealing with tenants? You know, have you inherited a property recently? Any of the like main 8 to 10 circumstances for why people sell, we're just kind of like methodically and melodically like driving that into the ad. And so it's got a nice ring to it. I love when we have people call us and tell us, like, you know, I had one lady call and like, my kids can repeat your ad verbatim. So it just has that same, like, we buy houses this and this and this and this. And so the whole primary goal is I'm driving down the road and you hit my pain point. And I'm like, you know what? I am tired of being a landlord. I'm tired of dealing with these tenants. I'm going to call these guys, see if they can help me. And that's the ad. I don't know.
That's awesome, man. What do you have a link for any coaching or resources on this? I don't like to make people wait to the end of the interview just in case they want to pull up some info on you while they're listening to this. I know that's how I am.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're listening, you're like, this radio thing, this is really interesting. You know, part of what we're talking about is we're helping people set this up nationwide. So at this point, we have people east to west coast running radio ads, closing deals. And it's been super cool to see this like really change students' businesses, because you're on the conversation. People are really struggling with what can I use and trust right now. So if you're listening and you're like, man, I'd love to look at implementing in that my business, go to wholesalinginc.com/REI radio. Again, wholesalinginc.com/REI radio. Book a call. And one of the things, just so you know, we're actually preserving it. So we minimize the amount of people that can come into each market. So even at this point, we already have markets that are sold out. And so that's our way of combating the fact that you and I are talking, you know, 2 years from now, it's like, well, everyone does radio. Not in our world. That's why we're limiting it and protecting it.
Very, very cool. I'll make sure that's in the show notes. If you're listening, you just click on it, wholesalinginc.com/REI radio. Wholesaling Inc. guys are absolutely amazing. We've had Cody on before. Tom, Tom Kroll, I don't know if we've done an actual podcast with, and then Brent has been on multiple interviews with me before. One of my favorite people in space, Brent, and all the wholesaling guys, so Wholesaling Inc. guys. So you know it's going to be quality coaching. It's genuinely good people that care about you and have a good mission. Like I know Chris, just from listening to another interview, is into ministries, charities, that type of stuff, which I want to end the interview with. But just want to throw that in there for you guys in case you want to check out some more resources on radio as you're listening to this interview. I know this is a wide range question, Chris, but what type of budget could someone get into, since we're kind of going down this path of people that are still listening to this interview that are interested in radio?
Yeah, this is really important, because if you're listening, I can tell you the assumption you're already making. You're like, man, sounds great, but I'm new. I don't really have much of a budget, and it's not affordable. The starting budget for anyone getting on radio is about $1,000 to $2,000 a month. Most people are spending more on that in direct mail. And I can tell you, most of the students that we have set up on radio have probably been in the business less than a year or 2 years. They're new.
Really?
Because it's affordable. And so here's why it's so good. And for the target audience, for those that are listening right now, again, you might be sophisticated on the investment side. And I'll tell you, dude, you can scale radio. You know, we're on like 7, 8 stations, and we spend a lot of money on radio per month. But if you're new, and let's say you're traditionally working like the 9 to 5, and you're trying to get out of the rat race, and you've got this beautiful vision of how you want freedom when it comes to real estate, and you want to be able to walk in one day and just stop that 9 to 5. The problem is you need a marketing channel that is not high maintenance for you. You need something that is set it and forget it. So new people are like, okay, I got $1,000 to $2,000 I can spend. On top of that, I need something that literally runs itself, because when I launch a marketing channel, I don't want to launch a new job which how it feels sometimes. I want to watch something that's just going to give me great opportunity. And so what we find with the people that are newer to real estate, it's a great thing to start with. And so usually if you're listening, you're probably doing maybe a little cold calling, maybe a little text blasting, a little direct mail, RVMing. I'm guaranteeing you're probably in one of those. And you're going, man, I need to have something a little bit better than this. Those things work, but they require a lot of time and they're a lot of outbound. I want to make the phone ring. And radio, in my opinion, is one of the best things for new people to start with. And I can say this because we have students just closing deals and I get so excited for them because they're like not closing hardly any deals. And in the first like 30, 60 days, I can name like one person after another that'll be like, dude, I got 5 deals in escrow. Or I just closed one for 25,000. Or dude, I'm already on 7 stations and I've only been doing radio 5 months because I snowballed the profit so fast. So that excites me because I realize that this is literally changing the industry and changing people's lives that need to make that money so that they can live this dream that they have of being a full-time entrepreneur, which is, dude, it's a very honorable dream. I applaud anyone that's willing to do that.
Absolutely love it, man. It's checking a lot of positives on the pro side, checking a lot of boxes as far as positives of why you should get into it. And I assume you're answering anything that comes in from a radio call. You want to try to answer as many of those as live as possible, whether you have it in-house or outsourced.
Yes, for sure. You don't run them to voicemail.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any for your business? Do you have your own in-house team that's doing live answer, or do you outsource anybody like Pat Live, anything like that?
Yeah, no. Again, my just past experience, the theory of outsourcing to a third-party company sounds beautiful, but the problem is we've never found a company that can really convert at the level that we can internally. But again, you can go hire. Again, we run a shift system. So, you put one person on a shift at a time. So, our first person is on a shift between, I don't know what it is, like 9 and 1 o'clock or something like that. And they just answer all the calls that are coming in. And you're going to pay a person like that a minimally hourly rate and give them a little kicker bonus for whatever they escalate that leads to a contract or a close. So it's extremely affordable. And so I much prefer to do that in-house.
Love it. Cool, man. Well, radio is sounding good. You guys have wholesalinginc.com/REI radio. I think one of the things that I learned on this interview, or what's resonating with me right now, is you're exactly right. Kind of looping back to the principle we were talking about with like Gino Wickman and all the books like that, is like some of these lead gen sources. I mean, we talked to a ton of people in our academy. The lead gen sources, you bring them on and it's probably a pretty lean marketing and lead generation strategy, but the net of it is expensive because you're creating another job for yourself. Like it's kind of the principle, like there's no such thing as a free lunch. It's like, that's what you're kind of doing if you start getting into texting and RVM and cleaning up your list and all that stuff versus the radio. How I like to live my life is to set it and forget it. So I think if my life was a marketing channel, might be getting set up with radio ads.
I love it. And the last thing I would hit is, again, the big question your audience is asking is, well, tell me about the return on investment.
Yeah.
I can tell you it's consistently a 1 to 3 to 1 to 4. So that means for every dollar you're spending, you're getting somewhere between $3 to $4 back. So you're tripling to quadrupling your investment. And if you have a marketing channel that can produce a dollar per dollar return of 1 to 3 to 1 to 4, that's strong. It's good. It's not crazy. It's not 1 out of 10. It's not 1 out of 15. But dude, I'll play a game all day long if I can land 1 to 3 to 1 to 4 consistently. That's great.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's your kind of foundation. And like we were saying, like marketing strategies are pretty cyclical. So if you have radio as your foundation, that gives you the base to be able to do some split testing and experimentation with other strategies, other outreach and things like that. Then if you have the, learn and earn model too, where you're just bringing in newer investors, newer wholesalers, whatever, you have a really good foundation as far as revenue that you're able to bring in.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely, man.
To end this, man, I want to talk to you a little bit just what you're doing. I heard you mention on another interview, just like the charity side and people being your passion, stuff like that. I would love to hear what you have going on with that, everything there.
Yeah. For me, when I talk about real estate being a vehicle, I feel like Another way to look at real estate is just a delivery system. It's a delivery system for me to be me. It's a delivery system for me to live out my values and the things that I consider to be most important in the sense of impact and legacy. So if you were always asking me, like, do I love real estate? Am I passionate about real estate? I'm not. I'm not. I love it as a vehicle and a delivery system. I think it's exceptional for that. So, one of the things I run, which I built as much for me as I did the men that are a part of it, is Multipliers Brotherhood. Again, we've all been to masterminds, but really what we're all craving, particularly as men, is like real life brotherhood. Like, what would it look like for me to be around a group of men that didn't judge me, that allowed me to really become vulnerable and talk about the hard shit in my business, and were there, that had my back during those times. And so most of us, like, philosophically kind of fantasize about that group of men. Like, that would be really cool to have. But what you'll find is most men don't even have a close friend, much less a community in which they can confide in. So I find one of the biggest problems in entrepreneurship is isolation. And so you look at something like COVID that just happened. Unfortunately, the natural tendency for a man, rather than to raise his hand and say, you know what, I'm in trouble right now, which is what you should do, because we need each other. There's no way we're going to get to the top of the mountain alone. What a man will do is isolate. And so one of the things that we've really set out to do is to create deep brotherhood for men, because I'm smart enough to know that I'm not going to get out to the place that I want to or fulfill my legacy if I don't have the right guys around. It's not going to happen. Not alone, because I'm going to get taken out alone.
Very well said. Hitting on some basic foundational human needs too, like to be in a tribe and to find fulfillment. And also you're just speeding up almost from like a business perspective. For those of you that want to hear that as well, you're just like speeding up your return on getting results faster. If you're able to like confide in people and have accountability and just have high level conversations about whatever's on your mind, is really just going to get you from point A.
Speeds up the business side, but I also want to speed up the role side. Men want to become better fathers. They want to be better husbands. They want to be better leaders. And as they say, iron sharpens iron. And so for me to move, efficiently by becoming better in my role, just like in my business, I've got to be around men that point me in the right direction and help me not make all the mistakes that I might make on my own. Like, what is the point? Save the mistakes and experiences for the ones you really need to go through. But man, a lot of the other ones can be avoided by simply listening to people that are wiser than you. And that's what community is about. It's about being around men that have been there, done that, buddy. And let me tell you, it sucked doing what I did and making the decision I did. And man, this is what I want you to learn from it. And I'm all ears. Like, I don't need to repeat that, man. It's painful enough to hear your story on what you just went through. Dude, lesson learned. Thank you for sharing that with me. And man, it is a magical environment when you're around those type of men. It's life-changing for us as men.
Mm-hmm. That's life, man. You live, learn, and then hopefully what you learn, you're able to pass on to somebody else to just, leave the world and humanity a better place than when you found it.
Yeah.
And I'm a big proponent, I say all the time, like talking about when I made the comment of, it speeds up stuff in your business. I almost more so meant the roles that you are. Husband, father, brother, uncle, whatever, because I'm a big advocate and proponent of saying like life and business are so integrated with one another, and like they so much affect like other one, like how well you're doing in your personal roles and relationships is going to directly influence anything business wise. So it's awesome that you kind of go in all on that, and you have a mental framework of just kind of seeing real estate as the vehicle that's helping you get there. Because I'm the same way. I'm not the type of guy back when I was wholesaling with investor views that loves picking out the type of, granite on the table or, that type of stuff, or love pulling comps or anything like that. But I do try to instill to a certain level that this is just the vehicle where I'm able to where I'm going to be able to make big changes in, humanity and helping people out, kind of, aspiring to be a Chris Arnold someday.
It's real simple in the sense of my decision making. I'm just going to choose to surround myself with the people that I want to be like, that
Love it,
challenge
man.
me and that are willing to tell me the truth. We need more truth tellers in our lives. There's too many people telling us as yes people like, hey man, do I need to adjust or change? No, man, you're good. That's not the right friend. Right friend
Hmm.
comes and, as they say, stabs you in the front. That's a true
Hmm.
friend. Stabs
Damn,
you.
that's a good statement.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take that one. Well, man, I would love to hear any great gives today, man, on both the business and the personal side. I would love to hear any last type of insight that you have for anybody that's listening, and then also what you're looking to do. We're in the back nine of 2020. What you see yourself doing moving forward this year and even beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. In the sense of kind of future for me, I'm 40 years old, and I'm really have kind of over the last couple of years gone from a transition in my life. For me, and I'm talking like the back half of my life and even the back half of 2020, they just kind of been happening at the same time. I'll use Bob Buford's language. For me right now, it's more about transitioning from success to significance. In my 20s and 30s, I think every guy has to answer that question for himself. Do I have what it takes to succeed in business? But there comes a point where it's like, what's another transaction? I think the significance from just doing deals and growing a business and being an entrepreneur begins to dwindle. I think that happens intentionally in our hearts because I really believe that that's God beginning to move us as young men to more mature older men and challenging you going, dude, I hope you understand there's more to life than what's in that bank account of yours. Like, what is your true legacy going to be? So right now I'm really not wanting to touch anything or grow anything unless it's directly influencing, impacting the lives of people. That's just me. So I'm spending less and less time in real estate and more time in the people side of business, building things that directly impact people. That's just like what's in my heart and where I'm at.
Absolutely love that, man, and even another level of appreciation that in saying that you're willing to come on the 80/20 real estate show and chop it up with me for an hour here, just talking real estate, life, and mindset. But that's powerful stuff. That sounds like a book title, From Success to Significance with Chris Arnold.
Uh, Bob Buford has a book called Halftime, so he uses the language success to significance. So, but that's his.
Love it, man. Well, dude, I genuinely appreciate your time and how you choose to live your life. Definitely an inspiration for myself, and I'm sure people listening to this. And wishing you the best, man. Hope to stay in touch here. Wholesalinginc.com/RDI radio. It's in the show notes below. Definitely check it out. Feel free to hit me up, Carlos@investorfuse.com, with any questions. And also, what's the best social? I know that we were talking
Yeah, a
on
couple of,
Instagram.
we just want free, education. I know some people are listening like, man, just give me some of the free stuff. I'm
Yeah.
all about that too. You can go to my YouTube, which is Chris Arnold Real Estate. So that's the best thing. Please feel free to subscribe. And if you want to know more about Multipliers Brotherhood, again, if you're listening and you're advanced and you're doing over $1 million a year in revenue at least, check out multipliersbrotherhood.com and see if you qualify to be a part of what we're building.
That sounds awesome, man. Got it. All right. Well, I'll have everything in the show notes for you guys. Have an amazing rest of your day wherever you're hearing this. Peace. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks.